The Drake Passage has been feared for centuries. It's where nature takes control, and humans hang on, hoping to make it through. Every ship bound for Antarctica must face this obstacle first. It's not a wall, it's not a gate, just open ocean. But this ocean doesn't welcome visitors. It tests them. Over 800 ships have failed that test. More than 10,000 sailors never made it across. This is the Drake Passage, one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. The Drake Passage is a body of water stretching around 600 miles between the southern tip of South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. To the north is Cape Horn, Chile. To the South Shetland Islands. It's the narrowest gap between Antarctica and any other continent, and it connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This isn't just a busy shipping route. It's also the only place on Earth where water from every major ocean can flow freely around the globe. The Drake Passage exists today because of a major shift in Earth's tectonic plates. At one time, Antarctica and South America were connected by land, but over millions of years, that connection was slowly pulled apart. As the two continents drifted away from each other, a deep channel opened between them. The separation created a narrow but critical gap in the southern hemisphere. That new gap allowed the Antarctic circumpolar current to form, the only ocean current on Earth that circles the entire planet uninterrupted. It flows west to east around Antarctica, moving a staggering volume of water and energy. This current isolated Antarctica from warmer northern waters, triggering the growth of its vast ice sheets and transforming the global climate system. But the same current that reshaped Earth's climate also flows directly through the Drake Passage. With no land to slow it down, it builds speed, power, and unpredictability, laying the foundation for one of the most dangerous stretches of ocean anywhere on Earth. The first known European to encounter what we now call the Drake Passage wasn't Drake at all. In 1525, Spanish navigator Francisco de Otes was sailing south from the entrance of the Strait of Magellan when strong winds pushed his ship far to the south. His crew spotted what seemed to be a vast expanse of open water, suggesting that South America might not be connected to any southern continent, as was once believed. Because of this early encounter, Spanish sources often referred to the Drake Passage as Mar de Hoces in his honor, but that name wouldn't carry across Europe. In 1578, English privateer Sir Francis Drake passed through the Strait of Magellan with 3 ships, Marigold, Elizabeth, and his flagship, Golden Hind. As the fleet entered the Pacific, a violent storm blew them south, deep into uncharted waters. Marigold was lost. Elizabeth turned back. Only Drake's Golden Hind survived and emerged into the open ocean. This unintended detour was a revelation. It proved to the English that there was indeed open sea south of the continent. Although Drake never deliberately sailed the passage that now bears his name, the discovery was significant and strategic. It wasn't until 1616 that the passage was intentionally navigated. Willem Schouten, a Dutch explorer, became the first to sail around Cape Horn and through the full Drake Passage. His successful voyage opened a new route for European powers seeking access to the Pacific, one not dependent on the narrow and unpredictable Strait of Magellan. There are a few reasons ships struggle at the Drake Passage. First, wind. With no land to block it, wind can travel around the globe almost without interruption. That builds speed and power. Gusts regularly hit 70 miles per hour. Second, waves. All that wind transfers energy into the water. Combine that with strong currents, and waves can reach 30 feet high. Some have been recorded at nearly 65 feet. Third, currents. The Antarctic circumpolar current doesn't just flow fast, it accelerates through the narrow gap. That creates eddies, circular movements of water, that can throw a ship off course. Fourth, ice. Massive icebergs break off Antarctica and drift north. Some are larger than entire cities. Navigation becomes a matter of survival, and all of these hazards can appear at once. In fact, they usually do. Long before satellite forecasts or radar, sailors ventured into these waters. Some made it through, many didn't. In 1741, during a British naval expedition to the Pacific, the HMS Wager attempted to round Cape Horn. As it entered the Drake Passage, the ship became separated from its squadron in the midst of brutal weather, an all-too-common scenario in these waters. Pounded by storms and struggling to stay afloat, the ship was eventually driven onto the rocky coast of southern Chile. The impact was devastating. Stranded in a remote and unforgiving landscape, discipline quickly broke down. What followed wasn't just a fight for survival, it was open mutiny. Disputes over leadership, dwindling supplies, and escape plans fractured the crew. Of the 120 men who had departed England aboard the HMS Wager, only 10 would eventually make it home to tell the story. The rest either perished in the wreck, died in the aftermath, or vanished into the wilderness of South America. The HMS Wager disaster remains one of the most chaotic and tragic episodes ever linked to the passage around Cape Horn. One of the most haunting tragedies linked to the Drake Passage is the wreck of the San Telmo, a Spanish naval vessel that vanished in 1819. The ship had departed from Buenos Aires on July 9th, bound for Montevideo. But as it entered the southern latitudes, it likely encountered a powerful storm system while navigating the treacherous waters of the Drake Passage. The San Telmo was last sighted on September 2nd near the eastern edge of the South Shetland Islands, just off the coast of Antarctica. After that, it disappeared without a trace. All 644 crew members aboard are believed to have perished in the freezing Southern Ocean. In 1897, the Belgica, a Belgian research vessel, set sail from Antwerp on a daring scientific expedition to Antarctica. After braving the brutal waters of the Drake Passage, the crew pushed deeper into the unknown. But what began as a mission of discovery quickly turned into a battle for survival. Caught in the grip of thick sea ice, the ship became trapped off the Antarctic peninsula, unable to move, unable to escape. The crew, including a young Roald Amundsen, who later became the first man to reach the South Pole, and American doctor Frederick Cook, was completely cut off from the outside world. As the polar night set in, the sun vanished for months. The men endured unrelenting darkness, biting cold, and growing despair. 2 members of the expedition died. The rest began slipping into depression and madness. Scurvy and frostbite took hold. Cook improvised treatments, insisted on routines, and forced the crew to eat raw penguin and seal meat to stay alive, measures that almost certainly prevented further deaths. When the light finally returned, the ship was still frozen in place. Their only hope was to cut their way out. Using handsaws, picks, and explosives, the exhausted crew spent weeks carving a channel through over a mile of solid ice. In early 1899, Belgica broke free and made the harrowing return across the Drake Passage, battered but afloat. One of the most remarkable survival stories ever tied to the Drake Passage is that of Sir Ernest Shackleton and his 1914 to 1917 Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition. The mission's goal was ambitious: to complete the first land crossing of Antarctica. Shackleton and his crew of 27 men set sail aboard the Endurance, but the expedition never even reached the continent's mainland. In January 1915, their ship became trapped in pack ice in the Weddell Sea. For months, the Endurance drifted helplessly before being slowly crushed by the ice. It finally sank on November 21st, 1915, stranding the crew in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Surviving on limited rations and a diet of seal and penguin meat, the crew endured months on the sea ice before eventually escaping to the desolate Elephant Island. But they were still far from rescue. Shackleton and 5 men then launched a daring, open-boat voyage across the deadly Drake Passage in a small lifeboat named the James Caird. Battling towering waves, sub-zero temperatures, and relentless winds, they reached South Georgia Island after a 16-day crossing, one of the most extraordinary feats in maritime history. From there, Shackleton secured help and returned to rescue the rest of his crew. Astonishingly, not a single man was lost during the ordeal, despite more than 500 days stranded in Antarctic conditions. Shackleton's leadership and the successful crossing of the Drake Passage have become legendary examples of endurance, navigation, and survival under impossible odds. No modern equipment, no engine, just a compass and raw determination. And yet, they survived. Even today, with advanced technology, ships still run into trouble. In 2022, the Viking Polaris, a cruise ship with reinforced hulls, was struck by a 16-meter wave in the Drake Passage. It shattered windows, injured passengers, and killed a 62-year-old woman. The incident was caused by what's known as a rogue wave, a rare, massive wave that appears without warning. And it proves that even in the 21st century, the Drake Passage remains unpredictable. Despite the risks, the Drake Passage is one of the most important stretches of ocean on the planet. Scientists study it because it's a gateway to the Southern Ocean. It's also where cold, oxygen-rich water from Antarctica mixes with warmer waters from the north. This mixing helps drive the global conveyor belt of ocean circulation, essential for regulating Earth's climate. Without it, the planet would heat unevenly, ecosystems would collapse. Research vessels crossing the Drake often collect data on salinity, temperature, and marine life. The area is especially rich in krill, a key species in the Antarctic food web. Every year, thousands of tourists attempt to cross the Drake Passage to reach Antarctica. Most leave from Ushuaia, Argentina, the southernmost city in the world. The trip takes about 2 days. If the weather is calm, passengers call it the Drake Lake. If it's rough, and it usually is, they call it the Drake Shake. Seasickness is common, but the payoff is extraordinary, setting foot on the most remote continent on Earth. For shipping companies, timing a Drake crossing is a calculated decision. Captains monitor satellite data for wind, waves, and ice movement. They may delay departures or alter course to avoid the worst of it. The Drake Passage is not just a strip of sea, it's a living challenge. Every crossing is proof of nature's force, and every success is earned. It connects continents, it powers climate systems, it has shaped exploration history, and it continues to test anyone who dares to cross. Whether you're a tourist, a scientist, or an explorer, one rule applies. No one conquers the Drake. At best, you pass through it. If you've made it this far, chances are, this is your kind of content. If you're drawn to the mysteries of lost ships, survival against impossible odds, and the unforgiving side of nature, this channel is for you. I cover real stories, shipwrecks swallowed by the sea, mountaineering disasters above the clouds, and outdoor tragedies in places most people never go. No filler, just deeply researched stories that respect the people and places behind them. And what's coming next might just be stranger than the Drake Passage. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.